The Cheltenham Festival, a juggernaut of a festival which sees millions of pounds bet on it each and every year. Running for 4 consecutive days, starting on the Tuesday and ranging all the way through to Gold Cup Day on the Friday, Cheltenham is without a shadow of a doubt the biggest horse racing meeting and horse racing festival of the calendar year. Now if you're somebody like me who has no interest whatsoever betting into negative overrounds that the bookmakers have to offer me, and you'd much rather earn at least a couple of £100 all the way up to a few £1,000, then this video is going to be for you, and this video is going to explain exactly how you can do that. So welcome to the video, guys. My name's Liam. This channel centres around beating the bookmakers and winning betting strategies and different edges and different strategies and different techniques you can use to beat the bookmakers and make profit online from the gambling industry. So Cheltenham, more specifically the Cheltenham Festival, is absolutely enormous, and there's so much recreational money bet at the Cheltenham Festival. That means smaller overrounds, more offers dished out by the bookmakers, and in general just more value all round that's being given away by online bookmakers. Now if you're watching this video, I'm guessing you want to take advantage of this and make some money from this festival. Now the way you can do it and the way I do it is by using something called match betting. Most of my normal viewers will be very familiar with exactly how match betting works. And if you do want to get a free trial of the website that I'm using, which is OddsMonkey, check out my link down below in the description. And if you do upgrade that account somewhere along the line, OddsMonkey do throw me a little commission for the referral, which does help my channel out very, very much. So thank you very much. I really do mean that if you decide to go through my link. First and foremost, you need to be ready. It's no good just a day or two before Cheltenham thinking to yourself, okay, what bookmaker accounts do I have available to me? How much money am I willing to put into my match betting at Cheltenham? And where is all the money that I've got for my match betting? Which account is it sitting in? So the first thing you want to do is you want to get your hands on as many high quality bookmaker accounts as you possibly can. Now, based on my previous experience from doing the Cheltenham Festival for the last 2 years and my experience in general with match betting, I've found that there's about 6 high quality bookmaker accounts that you want to get your hands on. Now you want these accounts to be non-gubbed and non-state restricted. So in other words, you want these accounts to have all the free bets available to be used on the accounts, and you don't want any state restrictions on your accounts either. So it's no good having a Sky Bet account and then Sky Bet let you bet like 25p each way on a horse race. It's not going to be very beneficial for you to do that. So ideally you want your accounts to be non-gubbed, so they've got all the free bets available, and definitely you want your accounts to be non-state restricted, or have a very heavy limit on the amount of money you can put through each of the bookmaker accounts that I'm going to mention right now. So we're going to go through the 6 bookmaker accounts in order of importance. Starting with number 1, Bet365. You need a Bet365 account. Having a Bet365 account is pretty much non-negotiable when it comes to the Cheltenham Festival. Bet365 are the huge industry giants, and they're going to be beating so many other bookmakers in terms of the prices they're offering. Bet365 are going to dish out so much value at this festival, and a lot of your profit as a result of the value they're dishing out is going to come as a result of having a Bet365 account. So definitely get your hands on a Bet365 account if you don't already have one. Number 2 is Sky Bet. Sky Bet's a very good bookmaker, just like Bet365. They offer out some pretty good free bet offers, and on top of that they're pretty competitive with their extra places, which is very good when you're looking for value in match betting. Number 3 is William Hill. William Hill's a good bookmaker, and again I'd recommend grabbing yourself a Hills account if you don't have one available to you. Number 4, Unibet. Again, another good bookmaker to have. I recommend getting yourself a Unibet account. Number 5 is a good old Coral account. It's very good to have a Coral account on hand when you're match betting. And finally, number 6 is Coral's brother, Ladbrokes. Now of course you want to get your hands on as many bookmaker accounts as you possibly can. Other bookmakers like Betfred and a few others would be rather beneficial to have, but based on my past experience, the 6 bookmakers that I mentioned there are going to provide you with the best value out of those accounts, and therefore the most profit from the festival. As for the betting exchange, I'll personally be sticking solely to Smirkets because of the 0% commission you do get when you're an OddsMonkey member. Again, if you want to check out my link down below in the description, feel free to do that. That does help me out massively if you go through that link and then you upgrade to a premium account for the Cheltenham Festival. So obviously there are various betting exchanges. You've got Betfair, Smirkets, BetDAC, Matchbook, 4 big names in town. But for me personally, I just stick to Smirkets as I just said, and I keep my Betfair account separate for my Betfair trading. Next up, how much money are you going to use at this festival? Now, quite plainly and quite simply, the more money you invest into this festival, the better for your profit. Match betting is a return on investment, it's an ROI type thing, so the more money you've got available to you and the more money you can put in, the more money you're going to be able to take out as profit at the end of the festival. So for example, if you're using £1,000 bankroll, you're going to be pretty hard pressed to earn £1,000 in profit and double your initial investment. Whereas if you have £5,000 to invest, you're going to find it pretty easy to make £1,000 in profits. So you can see the more money you've got available to you, the better for your profits, and the more high quality bookmakers you have to put that money through, the better it's going to be overall at the end of the 4 days when you tally up how much money you've made from the festival. Next up, we need to ensure that we've got all our money for the Cheltenham Festival for match betting distributed to the right areas. It's no good a day, 24 hours before the Cheltenham Festival, finding out all your balance is in your Smarkets account and you've got no money anywhere else and all your money's stuck in your betting exchange. It's no good doing that when you're trying to target bookmakers' promotions and bookmakers' offers. So first up, what I recommend doing is predefining exactly how much money you want to use at the festival. Now I recommend defining exactly how much money you want to use before you start the festival and sticking to that. So in other words, don't just start with £1,000 and then a few days in start throwing extra 200 quids in here and there. Define exactly how much money you want to use. So in this example we'll say £10,000. Now that number doesn't have to be so large, it can be like £500, £1,000, £2,000, £5,000. You should just predefine before you start the festival exactly how much money you want to put into your match betting. Now once you've done that, I recommend nominating 50% of that number into your betting exchange or betting exchanges that you're going to be using. So in my case, 50% of 10,000 would be £5,000, so I would distribute half of my bankroll, £5,000, 50% of my bankroll to my betting exchange that I'm going to be using. Now this is a big chunk of your bankroll, and the reason for investing so much of your money and so much of your bankroll, your match betting bankroll, into your betting exchange is because this is where you're going to be tying up the exposure, this is where you're going to be tying up the liability from your lay bets, and as a result of that you're going to need to tie up quite a lot of money in your Smarkets account or in your Betfair account or whatever exchange or exchanges that you're using. Next up, you want to allocate 1/5 of your bankroll, so that's 20% of your bankroll, into your Bet365 account. Now this number might seem like a crazy amount and so large just for one bookmaker, but the fact of the matter is, and I touched on this earlier, Bet365 are such huge industry giants and they're going to be beating all the other bookmakers in terms of their pricing and their odds and all that kind of stuff. And as a result of that, a lot and a big chunk of the value is going to come from your Bet365 account. So I do recommend distributing about 1/5 of your bankroll, so 20% of your bankroll, to your Bet365 account, although it might seem quite a lot when you first think about it. Now the final 30% of your bankroll I would have sitting in your match betting bank account, so whether that be Monzo, Sterling Bank, whether you're using PayPal or an e-wallet or whatever you're using, I'd recommend having the final 30%, so £3,000 in my case, sitting in that bank account ready to be distributed to whichever bookmaker it needs to be deposited to as quickly as possible. So on a £10,000 bankroll, this is exactly how I would distribute the cash. £5,000 to my betting exchange Smarkets, which is 50%, £2,000 to my Bet365 account, which represents 20% of the bankroll, and £3,000 to my match betting bankroll, which in my case is Sterling Bank, which represents 30% of the overall bankroll for the festival. Now I just want to preface this chapter by saying you will not make £400 or £500 a day from the Cheltenham Festival just by using free bets. There's simply not enough free bets available and they're not large enough in terms of the money aspect of how big the free bets are. Now you might earn £100 to £150 a day from the festival just from targeting free bets if you're lucky. But this is not where the big value is going to lie and where the big money is going to lie from this festival. But if you do want the super easy life and you just want to place a couple of basic BetX Get Y offers and lock in some pretty nice profit, maybe about £500 at the end of the festival, by all means target the free bet offers. But believe me, there is so much value at the Cheltenham Festival, and the value and the profit and the big profits and the big value isn't going to come from free bets, unfortunately. So at the Cheltenham Festival, the value lies within the bookmakers' place markets. Traditionally, bookmakers will have very unfavourable odds in their horse races, and when you convert all those odds into probabilities, so you convert the fractions or the decimals or whatever format of odds you're using into probabilities and then tally up each of those probabilities of each of the runners in the race, you find that the bookmakers have a very hefty value margin over their punters. Now at the Cheltenham Festival, there is so much recreational money, and I do mean that. There is so many people betting and there's so much money going through the bookmakers' books. These bookmakers can afford to lower their value margins and lower their overrounds, and as a result of this, value is going to pop up within the bookmakers' place market. Now this happens because the bookmakers' place market is stemmed from the win-back odds. The win-back odds and the over-owned in general is more enticing because of the reasons I just touched on, and because of the way that bookmakers price up the place market, so they throw a quarter or a fifth generally on the back odds for the horse to land in a place, and the exchange's place market is priced up differently. This is why the value is going to pop up in the place market. Now, to strip all that information down, if you really don't want to hear all the technical stuff and you just want to understand in black and white what to do, basically you're going to be getting information like this on the extra place matcher as opposed to information like this in a typical horse race. And by the way, these two images are hours out from their respected horse races, so you can see you're going to be getting quite a lot of value on the extra place matcher hours before the start of some of the races at the Cheltenham Festival. So if you're going to be targeting the place market, and more specifically all the different bookmakers' place markets, you need to decide on one of two place market strategies. Now, you don't need to use one of these strategies exclusively over the other one. On some races there might be more reason to use one strategy on some races, and on other races there might be more reason to use the other strategy. So it is dependent on the kind of horse race it is, how it's priced up, the kind of value margin the bookmaker has. Now, the two techniques and the two strategies that I'm talking about, the first one is the most popular one. A lot of match bettors love it. It's targeting the extra place or extra places depending on how many places you want to target. And the second one, which is less popular with some match bettors, but you can get a lot of value out of this strategy, it's basically herbing the place market. Now, as I just touched on, targeting the extra place or various extra places is by far the most popular strategy. I've got reasons as to why I think it is. It generally feels good to land a big win on a psychological level, and people like that feeling of having a really small qualifying loss, and if a horse lands in 4th or 5th, smashing a big win. So the idea with targeting the extra place is you want to find a really tight match on the extra place matcher, back the win and the each way with a bookmaker, lay the win on the exchange and lay the place on the exchange. If the horse lands in an extra place position, which is paid out by the bookmaker as a result of their promotion, so they might pay it on 4 places standard, but in this race they're paying out on 5 places though, so they're paying out on an extra place, and the exchange only covers 4 places. If the horse lands in that 5th place, which is covered by the bookmaker but not covered by the exchange, that's where you're going to hit a big profit. So 100% match on the extra place matcher would of course be positive expected value. It's almost certainly positive expected value. You'll get a free bet on the horse landing in 4th or 5th, and you would simply lose no money if it didn't. Whereas an 85% match on the extra place matcher probably isn't going to be positive in expected value. You're going to have a higher qualifying loss and a smaller extra place profit. Now, the problem is with this strategy is that you can't quantify the expected value based on the information that you're getting on OddsMonkey's extra place matcher. You simply do not have the key metric, which is the odds, the implied probability of a horse landing in one of the places. Now, you have something called implied odds. The implied odds, it's simply derived from your extra place profit and your qualifying loss. Now, you can do all kind of crazy things like work out the qualifying loss for the whole field and divide it by 2, or work out if there's the X amount of runners running in the race and the qualifying loss is this and the rating is this, it's going to be positive expected value or it's negative expected value. The bottom line is you don't have the expected value, and you need to collect a lot of past information and model the market, but you need to do something more efficient than just working out some arbitrary method and trying to work out the expected value in that regard. Now, I have heard of people making a profit doing things like that, but the fact of the matter is you'll be throwing away quite a lot of money in qualifying losses each and every month. So let's say you make £400 or £500 by doing some sort of arbitrary extra place, technique like that. It's likely you might be throwing away £200 or £300 in qualifying losses because your matches aren't tight enough, and on some occasions you're not taking positive expected value where you should be taking it. But at the end of the day, it's profit, and if you do have something like that what's working for you on a normal basis, fair play to you. But the fact is you might be throwing away money in qualifying losses for no apparent reason. So for this reason, the way I target extra places, and the best way to target extra places, which is specified on OddsMonkey's website, is to target runners which have a really tight match. So it's almost a certainty that you are taking positive expected value, and there isn't a grey area and there isn't ambiguity, whether it's positive or it's negative. You're almost certain you have got a positive match. Now, in a lot of circumstances, people don't like to do this, understandably, because it's fast moving. The bookmaker doesn't want to give away value, so you're going to be fighting against the clock and fighting against the bookmaker, moving their odds and making the ratings lower again. But at Cheltenham, as I've touched on, throughout the day you're going to be getting really tight matches and really high matches on the extra place matcher. It's completely different to what you would find under normal horse racing meetings, where the matches are only coming up in the last few minutes. You're going to have a long period of time throughout the day, every time you click and refresh, to get on high matches matches which almost certainly have a positive expectancy. So I've got loads of videos on my channel, but ultimately what I'm trying to say is if you've got a really high match which is almost certainly positive expected value, the qualifying loss is really small in relation to the extra place profit, the implied odds are higher than the back odds as a result of the high extra place profit and low qualifying loss, you want to put as much money as you possibly can through that runner because you've got a good value bet, or value bets in the case of match betting. Now if you have the accounts available to you and the opportunity presents itself, it won't do it in every single horse race, but in some races at the Cheltenham Festival it's highly likely this opportunity and this scenario will pop up. You may choose to get on every single horse or target every single extra place, every single runner in the race and guarantee a profit. I've used this strategy before. It can take a few hours to cover the field and guarantee a profit, but it is highly profitable and it does work really, really well. Now this is an advanced strategy. As I've said, it can take quite a bit of concentration, it can take a few hours of your time up, but the profits you can make from it are really quite significant. I have got a video on my channel which explains exactly how you can do this, but ultimately what you're doing is you're getting on every single runner in the race, targeting the extra place with every single runner. What you want to make sure of if you're targeting this strategy and if you're looking to do this, you want to make sure that your accumulative qualifying loss from covering every single horse in the race, that accumulative qualifying loss is smaller than your smallest potential extra place profit from one of the runners landing in an extra place position. So let's say the extra place position is 5, it's 5th, and the smallest potential runner you've got to make a profit on in the 5th position is £200, but your total accumulative qualifying loss from covering every single runner is £80. You can see you're going to lock in at least £120 of profit, and that's really good. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that overall accumulative qualifying loss to be smaller than the smallest potential extra place profit. So if you do like my content, guys, please tap that subscribe button. It takes me ages to make these videos. I script them, I record them, I edit them on my computer. It takes a long period of time, so please tap that subscribe button. Now strategy 2 when targeting the place market with bookmakers is erbing the place market. Now this technique and this strategy, whatever you want to call it, isn't quite as popular as targeting the extra place. Now as I touched on earlier, I think it's kind of because you're not going to be able to make a big massive profit like in strategy 1. Now the caveat with this strategy, like I just said, you're not going to be able to make a massive profit like £400 or £500 if your stakes are large enough, if a horse lands in 5th or 6th or whatever. But the caveat is, and the difference with this strategy is, you make a guaranteed profit every single time you do it. So granted the profits are smaller, but they're continuous. So every time you back the win in each way, lay the win and lay the place, that's it, you've got a profit locked in regardless of the outcome, albeit the profit won't be as large as in strategy 1. Now if you don't know how the herb in the place market strategy works, I do have a very detailed video on my channel which I will link to at the end of this video, and I do recommend checking it out and familiarising yourself with exactly how it does work before the Cheltenham Festival if you are looking to make as much profit as possible from the festival. So the way this strategy works in a nutshell essentially is when you're placing an each way back bet with a bookmaker, you're essentially placing 2 bets. First bet you're placing on a horse to win the race, and the second portion of your bet, when you click each way, that activates the second portion of the bet. You're betting on a horse to land in places are paid out and specified by the bookmaker. Now the first portion of the bet, the win portion of the bet, the standard normal portion of the bet, the win back odds with a bookmaker are almost certainly going to be lower than the win lay odds on the betting exchange. And if you back at a lower price with a bookmaker and lay at a high price on the exchange, you net a loss, you net a qualifying loss. It's very basic knowledge in match betting. If you back low and lay high, you make a loss, and if you invert the process and you back high and lay low, you make a profit. Now the edge and the profit from this strategy comes on the second part of the bet, the each way portion of the bet. And what you find with the second portion of the bet is that the bookmaker's back odds are higher than the exchange's lay odds in the place market. Now, predominantly this comes down to the fact that bookmakers price up the place odds differently to the way the exchange does it. The exchange is based on odds and probability, whereas the bookmaker just slaps a quarter or a fifth on their initial back odds. Sometimes you can get a discrepancy where they've got a mispricing and where they're giving away value because their place odds are higher than the exchange's place lay odds, and therefore you profit from that portion of the bet. So to break it down, on the first portion of your bet you're making a qualifying loss because you're backing low with a bookmaker and laying high with the exchange, but on the second portion of your bet you're backing high with a bookmaker and laying low with the exchange, and the profit from the second portion of your bet significantly outweighs the loss from the first portion and you have a profit and an herb from the place odds. Now granted, this is still herbing, you're still taking value from the bookmaker, but it's more of a subtle way of herbing. You're not just flat out taking a really high price with the bookmaker and laying at a low price on the exchange. You're not going to stand out like a sore thumb, because on the surface of it, it just looks like you're just a recreational mug punter who's taking poor prices each way. Obviously when you dive into it and you look at it in more depth, it's pretty obvious that you're herbing the place market. But initially on the surface of it, it does look like a muggy thing to do. And at Cheltenham, they're not going to be looking out for this kind of thing. They've got more important things to look at than someone who's trying to herb the place market. Now the best software to do all this, in my personal opinion, is with the each way matcher on OddsMonkey. Again, I've touched on it various times. OddsMonkey, again in my opinion, is the best match betting provider. It's very reliable, the site never goes down, customer support's really good, it's very cheap, you're getting a lot of value for money, and if you won't mind and you are thinking about trying OddsMonkey, my link is down below in the description. And again, that does really help the channel out if you do decide to go through that link and then you upgrade yourself to a premium account. Now in this chapter, I'm going to let you in on some important tips, which in my personal opinion separate match bettors who make a couple of £100 a month and aren't really super successful. They make a decent bit of profit to people who really understand match betting, really understand how to take the value, how to manage their money and make as much profit as they can from match betting. First up, combined liability. Combined liability is a super important trick and it separates a lot of people, like I said, who make a little bit of money from the people who make a lot of money by using this simple technique. Now people either get confused by combined liability or worried by combined liability, or sometimes a little bit of both, but it isn't that confusing and it isn't that hard to understand once it's broken down to you. So have you ever seen more experienced match bettors, whether you've seen them on YouTube or forums or wherever you've seen them, who are putting so much money just through one extra place? They might tout thousands of pounds just on the win lay portion of their bet when they're doing extra places. Now when you first see this can be downheartening, because you can think to yourself, you know, I've not got all this money, I've not got £100,000 or whatever in my betting exchange balance to invest into doing all these extra places. Now granted, more experienced match bettors are going to have a significant amount of money in their match betting bankroll, but I guarantee you it's not going to be close to £100,000. It might be like £5,000 or £6,000 or £7,000, but it's going to be nowhere near what you expect it to be if you don't understand the concept of combining the liability. Now I've got a video on my channel which explains exactly how combined liability works, and it goes through it in a step-by-step format to make it super simple. So if you don't understand how it works, or you want to re-familiarise yourself with how this technique and this super clever trick works, check out that video, go and find it on my channel. It is a good watch and it will illustrate to you why combining liability, specifically at places like Cheltenham and the Cheltenham Festival, is such a great thing to do. So Best Odds Guaranteed is a promotion that's run by Bookmakers, which essentially gives you the best price available with your bets that you place with the bookmakers. So if you back a horse winning each way of a bookmaker and you get that horse at a price of 8.0, and at the last few minutes before post time of the race the horse drifts out to odds of 10.0, the bookmaker will give you the best price available. So instead of having odds of 8, you'll now get odds of 10, and of course if the horse wins the race or it lands in a place, you're going to get a little boost in your profits when you're match betting. Now bogey's run by most bookmakers, pretty much all of them at the Cheltenham Festival. Just have a look into the terms and conditions with each of the individual bookmakers. Generally for the most part they all apply Best Odds Guaranteed after 10 AM. So if you are looking to use that little boost from Best Odds Guaranteed and get a little bit more profit, make sure to place your bets with those bookmakers after the designated start time of bog with each individual bookmaker. So as I've been touching on all throughout this video, the value and the big profits and the big opportunity lies within the bookmakers' place markets. But that doesn't mean you should just completely disregard free bet offers and price boosts entirely, because there are some good free bet offers that the bookmakers dish out. Granted, you're not going to get super rich and make a load of money from the free bet offers, but they are still there and they can still give you a nice supplement in profit. And the price boost bookmakers offer out can have a significantly larger limit than what they would traditionally have. So in most cases, under normal circumstances, you might be able to get 10, 15, 20 quid on a price boost, lay it off at a short price on the exchange and net a decent little profit. But at the big meetings, specifically Cheltenham Festival, you can put hundreds of pounds through sometimes on the bookmaker's back bet and guarantee a nice profit. Now you also have the option to use underlay, which is essentially a free bet and larger profit of the horse that you're getting on with the price boost, wins the race. So you have the option of the free bet, the underlay option, or the standard option, a smaller guaranteed profit. Now if you are going to be using these price boosts with a bookmaker and you're going to be putting a significant amount of money, as much money as they'll allow you, through the boost and then laying it off on the exchange, obviously you're going to be tying up quite a significant amount of exposure and liability on the exchange. So make sure you're combining liability with other horse races where you're doing your extra places. So you're combining the liability and you're getting as much value as you possibly can out of that race, as opposed to targeting price boost at the last race of the day and putting all your money through that price boost and tying up a load of money till the end of the day at the Cheltenham Festival. Now your match betting bankroll is very, very important. There's no question about it. Protecting that bankroll and knowing where to put your money are two very important things in match betting. Now if this is your first Cheltenham, I can almost guarantee it's going to look like a completely alien world when you first look at OddsMonkey. There's going to be value all over the place in terms of tight matches on the extra place matcher. You're going to get herb opportunities to herb the place market, price boosts, free bet offers. There's going to be so much value and it's going to be so different to what you're used to. Now the temptation might be, and I've seen loads of people do this before, is to just get on every single bit of value they can. The problem is with that, you might get on like 2 extra places in the first race, 4 extra places in the last race. Slap bang in the middle of the card, you might get on a few hefty price boosts, a few free bet offers, which is all well and good, but the problem is that you can't combine the liability across each of these horse races. So although on the surface it might look like you're taking value and you're doing the best that you can, you're actually limiting yourself to the amount of profit you can make per race because you're not able to combine the liability across each of the races. So for me, what works best personally in terms of making the most profit possible is targeting each race individually. So going through each race one by one, making as much profit as you can by combining the liability and not targeting races too far in advance. Granted, you might have the odd free bet or two sort of towards the end of the card, but the bulk of your money should be focused on each individual race. Now this one should go without saying, you want to be tracking everything. Now you can use Microsoft Excel, which is probably the best option, or if you don't have Excel, it's like a paid version, a paid product from Microsoft. You can also use Google Sheets, which is a spreadsheet online from Google. I think you have to make a Google account to use it. It'll only take like 2 minutes or something to make that. But you do want to be tracking all your results, so your profit from each of the horse races, if you make a small loss on a horse race, how much profit you've made on each individual day, where your money's sitting in what accounts, what withdrawals you've got. You want to have it all tracked so you know exactly what's going on and you can determine how much profit you're making, how much you've lost on a certain race, where the money's sat in which bookmaker accounts, in which exchange accounts. And doing that, although it might not seem like it, it's going to reduce the amount of stress level you're taking on. It's going to keep it nice and clean for you, allow you to keep a nice clean head because you know exactly where your profits are within which accounts, how much profit you've made. Now when you're a match bettor who's taking value out of the bookmakers place markets, you want to be watching out for a mass selection of horses withdrawing in a race. Now this is rare of course, but if too many horses withdraw from a race, what can happen and what does happen is the bookmaker can either change the amount of places that they're paying out on and or change the fractional payout in terms of the place odds for the runner that you're getting on. Now of course, as a match bettor, this is something that you do not want to happen. Now the incentive for these horses winning these races at the Cheltenham Festival is absolutely massive from a money perspective. So these jockeys and these trainers and whoever else is going to really want to make sure they've got their horses running at the festival. So the big one to look out for with this is adverse weather conditions around the Cheltenham area. So if all the horses are prepared to run on a certain type of going and a certain type of surface at Cheltenham, and then overnight there's a big change in weather, so it rains, loads of rain comes down, or it's snowing, or whatever the case might be, and all these horses are prepared to run on a certain condition of turf, what can start to happen is a cascading effect where all the horses start dropping out one by one. Now it's highly unlikely of course, but this is something that you should be watching out for when you're match betting. So don't forget to get your free trial of OddsMonkey, guys. The link to do so is down below in the description. You can get your hands on everything that I've mentioned in this video, such as the each way matcher, extra place matcher, the daily offer calendar for all the free bets, the price boost thread. Everything you're going to need is available on OddsMonkey, and it does help me out once again if you go through that link and then upgrade your account. And just have fun with it at the end of the day, guys. It's 4 days of really easy money. Don't be worrying about getting gubbed and getting restricted. As I've been touching on, there's so much recreational money and mug money, for lack of a better term, going through the bookmakers' books. They're not going to be worried about you. You're like a drop in the ocean to them, targeting the place market and targeting extra places. Don't worry about it. You're going to get gubbed anyway at the end of the day. And at the Cheltenham Festival, because there's so much money going through this festival, there's a big opportunity and you don't want to be sitting back and relaxing and worrying about being gubbed. Hit it as hard as you possibly can. And yeah guys, we've finally got to the end of this video. It took me a long time to make. I've got jaw ache now for speaking for so long. But I really do appreciate your time, and I wish you all the luck in the world at the Cheltenham Festival, at smashing the bookmakers and making some big profits out of the festival. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon in the next video.